My win for the week was I actually had 3 different realtors reach out asking specifically about this program, just because of how crazy the market has been. Going into the new year, we've seen rates creep up, floods of buyers coming in, and more offers being more competitive. Gee, I imagine you're seeing the same thing as well with your realtors, correct?
Yes.
It's been wild. Even though we would have expected things to maybe ease up with more homes coming on the market, who knows how that'll continue to trend. But being able to take advantage of the guarantees and present them properly to the realtors is great. And the biggest part of that is not only using it as a tool for them and their buyers as something that's going to help them, and presenting it as such, but making sure that you're also setting the expectations of the timeline that's expected with that, and being able to execute these very smoothly. The realtor is going to want to be able to see that and understand the process too, so they can relay that, and you guys are both on the same page with their borrowers. So I've been able to chat through this with a couple people this week, and it's the thing about it is presenting it to them as the same as a cash offer, right? Because of what we're able to guarantee by doing the due diligence up front, getting documentation in up front, doing a TBD scenario if you need to, if you've got complex income. Trust me, I've learned the hard way on this one. Some of us have as well, but you go in with complex income, you think you're great. It can absolutely delay things. Underwriting's coming back with multiple touches on it. Do those TBD scenarios up front if you're a little worried about that. Presenting that to the real estate agent is saying, hey, our goal is to get your client in, take a few extra additional steps, show them exactly what their expectation is in terms of timeline. And that 14-day and 21-day fast track process is awesome. The realtors that I've shown that to love to see those dates, because many times they will ask you, how are we going to close this in 2 weeks? What do you need? Or 3 weeks? What do you need the contract dates and deadlines to look like? And now that takes the thinking right out of it. You can throw your dates in there. You can show them exactly what that's going to be. You can share that with them. They can input the dates and confirm them with you. But highlighting those benefits, whether it's via email or presentation, and I'll send this to you guys. I have an email template that I send out to agents when they're asking about it, just specifically highlighting the perks, the main ones that they want to see. And then when I get them on the phone, we'll go into a little bit more detail about this process. And that email is going to say, hey, we're going to guarantee our earnest money for our borrower up to $10,000 if we have certified them through our buyer program. We will guarantee the $1,000 a day if we delay anything on our end, and that applies to the seller. And when you present that and you're saying, hey, this is applying to the seller, that's a great time to come in and say, hey, when you put an offer in, I'm absolutely going to call the listing agent and explain to them the guarantees as well. It may not always get that contract in, but 9 times out of 10, that listing agent is going to say, wow, I haven't heard anyone do this before. This is incredible. I will absolutely let our clients know. Thanks for sharing that with me. And you usually get really, really good feedback on that end. And so when you're presenting that to the agents, again, a great thing to say is, hey, we will call on behalf of the borrower after discussing with you what kind of details we're looking for there. The other highlight I always make on that one is, included in that, it's $2,500 to the borrower if we're delayed for any reason, to help cover any costs, displacement costs, moving costs, etc. Right. So those are the 3 things that I like to highlight, is the 2 potential delays, and reiterating to them, because while we have those guarantees that we're going to be paying out if we delay anything, it's reiterating to them that, hey, this doesn't happen. We are going to close this. This is why we are guaranteeing this, and this is why we are so confident in what we do. I don't necessarily use it as an overly sales pitch thing right from the start, but bringing it up to a realtor and saying, hey, we have this specific program, this Zenith certified borrower program. What can we do to help your clients get to the top of the stack when we're competing? Now, the other thing that I'll reiterate after that, once we review that, is say, hey, not everyone's going to be able to utilize this. It's going to depend on the loan scenario. Now, we will back these guarantees up, but not everyone is going to be able to do a 10, 14-day close. Now, if they're in this program, or if they're in a scenario where they have a little bit more flexibility, it's a great opportunity to, again, bring up some appraisal gap strategies as well, right? Because you have to be prepared with your borrower if you're going to go through this Zenith certified program, and make sure that they're aware of how these scenarios can possibly change if appraisals come in differently than expected. And one thing, let me back up, because one thing I missed on that too was being able to actually waive, and this is a conversation with the borrower and the agent, but the agents love this when you say, hey, we can actually waive all financing contingencies, right? And this is a conversation the borrower must be comfortable with it and the agent must be comfortable with it, but we can go in the exact same as a cash offer, right? Because of these guarantees, and it makes the borrower more comfortable. And quite honestly, it's been really a game changer for a lot of people in being able to do these things in this timeline and get offers accepted. And John and G or anyone else on this call, I don't know if you guys have seen this as well, but there's other companies that are coming out with similar guarantees, similar programs. Obviously I'm biased. I don't think any one of them is nearly as thorough as ours. And I'll send this to you guys too, because an agent sent it to me yesterday. If you guys have heard of New American Funding's buyer certified program.
I wonder who brought that up to them. Maybe Andrew and Jesse.
I'm not sure who brought it up to her. I'll ask, but she sent it to me and was like, hey, is this the same thing that you guys are doing? Is this what you guys do? It's a weird program that they have, and it's where they go in and they buy your house and then buy something back from you. There's a 3% fee involved. It's very complex, and it's creative, and it's something that's different. But when you look at what they're able to do versus what we are able to do, they're charging additional fees. There's additional costs. Ours is simply, hey, we're giving you the opportunity to make a cash offer. We're guaranteeing that we're going to get it closed, and we're not going to make it overly complex, and we're not charging you anything else to do it. Well, the only thing that we ask you to do is, communicate with us. Get your documents in when we ask for them. Just be as quickly as we want to. I'm going to respond as quickly as you guys are going to respond, and we expect that same level of communication back and forth. And that's just the leaps and bounds. And she goes, great. And now I'm not even going to go. I don't even want to learn about their program. I don't care, right? Because it's a highlight, and I'll send it to you guys because it's interesting. But it's an incredible conversation to have, and there's so many questions that can stem from that. But like I said, it's a great opportunity to leave a message for a realtor. Say, hey, this is a program that we have. What can we do? Are you interested in hearing more about this? Can we schedule 10, 15, 20 minutes via Zoom, in person, something like that, to go over the details, show them the calendar, and show them the expectations. And most of the time they're going to have not seen anything like it. So great tool to be able to show them and present to them. Gee, I don't know if you presented or have any thoughts differently, but go ahead.
I mean, I would keep it simple. It depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to schedule a meeting, then yeah, that's a great, that's the struggle for everyone is, appraisal gaps, cash buyers, right? 25% of the market. I don't know where everyone's getting all this cash, but, if you can provide a solution to make their buyers as close to that as possible, you know, that's probably their biggest pain point, I would think right now, outside of inventory. So I talk about those during the Zoom meeting with the client, and then of course with realtors, and just try and tie in like a story to it. Because, you know, if you're talking to a buyer and you tell them, you know, you're talking about the closing cost guarantee, right? Something like that. Just tying a story like, you know, do you have any friends that maybe bought a home in the past and then were surprised at closing because the numbers were higher than what they were told? And everybody like goes like this on the Zoom meetings. And then like, that's never going to happen with working with us, because, you know, we guarantee all of our fees, everything's overestimated. So everything I ever show you is always going to be, you know, I tell them it's the highest title company fees I've seen in 20 years. And you can tell them whatever number you want, right? You could say that we've ever seen. So we overestimate this, and then we guarantee it. Now I'll say, you know, I don't know where you shop, but let's say you know, I always go low end. I don't want to offend anyone, right? Let's say you're at Kohl's and there's a pair of jeans that's, I don't know, how much are jeans, $50 or something on the rack, and it's 51 at the register. You wouldn't be okay with it, but somehow you're supposed to be okay with an estimate on the largest transaction of your life. So we'll make sure that will never happen. Everything's overestimated so that the day of closing, you know, you're happy and you decide to tell all your friends about me. And that's the end result. And they always kind of giggle at that. So that's kind of how I talk about the closing cost guarantee. But yeah, these other ones, you know, you probably are starting to get emails from realtors, right? That it's like, how fast can you close so-and-so, right? That's like the email I get all the time when they're getting ready to write an offer. And so it's just about being clear, you know, knowing, you know, having a little post-it note or something if you're not sure, you know, what loans you can do in 2 weeks and what loans you can do in 3 weeks. So, you know, FHA, CHAFA, VA, and I don't know, I don't really do complex jumbos like Casey and Chris. If I do Redwood, and we can close those in 2 weeks. But knowing those, I'm telling them 3 weeks, and then knowing the ones that you can do 2 weeks and having that conversation with the agent. Yeah, we can close in 2 weeks. You know, here's what it's going to take. Like that appraisal, I have to order it right away. I can't wait for you to do an inspection. And it's probably going to cost like $1,000 for the appraisal. Because I don't want it to be a surprise if I showed them 600 or 700 up front. And the buyers are always okay with that. They just want the house. But just being clear on those dates, that spreadsheet is super helpful. On a lot of ours, the ones that are really straightforward, you know, we'll definitely always push to waive the loan financing contingency. And that actually buys ops more time, right? Because if that financing contingency is like 4 days before closing and you have 10 business days total, that's 2/3 of the time than if it was the day before closing or if it was waived. So, you know, that's actually a helpful thing in my book, is being able to waive that. If you're not sure when to waive it, talk to someone, right? You don't want to suggest that I wouldn't suggest like a lot of the buyers waive it, but it is an option. I always tell them it's your option. If you have any concerns about a job loss or anything like that before closing, don't waive it, because, you know, that's your only out to get your earnest money back. What else? What other guarantees? What are you guys running into that are like the biggest struggles with trying to explain the guarantees, and to who? Buyers or realtors?
Most of the people on the call are pretty new, so I just wanted to frame this in a way how you guys are presenting it and when.
I think something I've stumbled on that would probably be beneficial for people who haven't talked about it, to just get some, like, kind of not scripting, but kind of, Casey touched on it a little bit, but there are some times where, you know, I'm going over these guarantees and they sound great, and then I have a thought in my head like, oh shit, like, do people think that we have these because we do delay, and that we do run into these issues? So kind of just like explaining that with like confidence and addressing it up front might be helpful, to hear how other people do it, because there are some times where I go through it, I'm like, gosh, these guarantees sound great. And then I'm like, I hope they don't think that we have to use these all the time. So if you have kind of a talk through on that.
That's a good point, because every single time I explain it, which I do with every single client, the first thing I say afterwards is, I've never had to write that check, but it's there, you know, because when we explain like the $1,000 guarantee, I'll just say that's there for when we make those 2-week contracts, right? And the listing agent thinks like, there's no way these guys can close in 2 weeks, right? Well, we've got that guarantee right into the contract. So it's that little cherry on top that allows us to write that 2-week contract. I'm like, oh, okay, cool, right? So I think that's kind of the way I like work around it.
I just tell them, I explain to the buyers that, you know, everything, even though we've had the closing cost guarantee for 20 years, like all these other things are really, you know, designed to help you in this market right now, make your offer stand out. So everything is designed geared towards the seller, right? So that you have, you know, the quick closing, you have the $1,000 per day. And then I just explained to them, I've never, like Ryan said, never written those checks, but all these things are just designed to make your offer stand out amongst the competition when you're competing with, you know, 15 other offers for the same house, you know, appraisal gap knowledge. So I know, I think at some point I did maybe a year ago, some kind of a appraisal gap presentation, but I don't know who was there and who wasn't there. So if you want me to do that again, I'm still doing that with realtors, and they're still like, oh, I never thought about it that way. So, you know, anyone who's doing 10% or more, right, can build in an appraisal gap into the loan. So if you want me to do that like next Friday or something, let me know. But, you know, having a firm grip on those numbers is really important. And then you have to keep reminding the agents as soon as you see them click on a TCA, right? You get that notification, you can reach out and say, hey, how's the house hunt going? And usually you'll get, wow, I was just thinking about you. I'm actually looking at a house today, right? And I was going to send you an email. And then you can, you know, I just tell the realtors, I mean, Ryan and I are trading off weekends, but you know, I tell the realtors, you know, you have to reach out to us on the weekend, because we want to be part of that, the offer making process, because I'm going to remind them of all these things, because they forget, unless it's the people that you work with all the time, they forget. It doesn't matter if you say it up front. And so usually the path that seems to work really well that I explain to the realtor and buyers, like, okay, I want the buyer to reach out to me. We found a house that we like. We want to make an offer on it. Can you update the numbers? And then I'm going to say, great, what do you think you want to offer? And maybe loop in the realtor. And then based on that, you know, are you going to offer an appraisal gap, and then build the TCA with and without the appraisal gap, send them the letter, send them all the guarantees that they can write in. They can just copy and paste right into the contract, all in one email, right? And then the realtor has everything that they need. The buyers feel like, you know, they have everything that they need, and you have the best shot possible, I think, by reiterating those over and over.
I'll send you guys this template that we use on the weekend. It's great. It's kind of the one-stop shop that G was talking about. That helps with that.
Oh, with condos, right? The waiving the financing contingency. So if someone's making an offer on a condo, because you would know, right, you're running numbers for them, you know, with a realtor that I work with, we came up with this last year. And then I was like, this is like really genius. And so far, I mean, the listing agents seem to be gobbling it up, which is, you know, the buyer, well, Ryan will send it, but it's along the lines of, after the lender determines that the condo meets Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac guidelines, the buyer waives their financing contingency, right? So they're waiving it, but all the control is on me. Like I could wait till the day before closing, be like, yep, we're good on the condo. Oh, by the way, we're clear to close, right? And when they do that, like it's all on us. So the condo desk is protected, if they take longer than usual or if they get it done fast. So that verbiage is in there. It seems to be working pretty well.
That is awesome. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Casey, you're not on the Zenith FTP email link, are you?
No.
Okay.
I am not. If you'll include me in that, that'd be great.
Yep.
Hey, Ryan, quick question. Are you CCing the client and the realtor when you're sending this out?
Yeah,
Typically, yeah. Yeah, unless there's some reason that, you know, the client doesn't want you to, but that's very far and few between.
Okay.
Always, to answer your question, Blake, always ask the clients what level of communication I'm allowed to have with their realtors, just to make sure that expectations are set, because some clients are really funny about what they want the realtors to know. So, you know, usually once you have that question and say why we need to communicate with the realtors, they're fine with it and CCing everything. But it's just a good question to ask to set the stage for why you're doing that. Because if you don't, they'll think you're kind of colluding or maybe going against them. So.
And to John's point, if you're having that conversation about what you might say to the agents, they're going to appreciate that because they know that you're going an extra step to help them out.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Emily?
G,
Yeah,
Casey,
next question, anything else?
while we have them?
You know, I just want to show you this slide that G and I use that I think has been really beneficial in our Zoom meeting. If I can share my screen really quick. This usually solidifies the deal. Can you guys see this? You guys see my PowerPoint? I can't take credit for this. This is definitely something that she came up with, but this has been pretty beneficial when we go through. This is at the beginning of the Zoom call, but it just goes through our guarantees. And usually when we talk through this piece, it's, I mean, and going through the total cost analysis, these are the two biggest value adds that I think people end up using us for, is once you go through it like this. And then if they're on the discovery call, you can go through this kind of on the front end if you know they're shopping. But it's been great to kind of lay this out, and then obviously you can use that template on the weekends for the realtors. So that's what I've seen help at least.
Yeah, like a year ago, like last spring, we added this to the Zoom presentation. Before that, like it never occurred to me that like, yeah, I say it once and maybe they see it on, you know, page 5 of the pre-approval or whatever, but the realtor never remembers, the buyer almost never remembers. And these are all things that if we can do them, they should be part of the contract to give them, you know, give them a chance.